All right, so what do we have? We have a new tournament. This is a full tournament, the Summer Shores tournament. That the Oasis holes are awesome. They are, and these are very technical. There's a lot of and we can have a lot of fun on these holes. I think there's some shots on these holes that have been opened up because of some of the ball inventory. So it'll be interesting to look at what our options are. And it looks to me like, reading this, that we're on the original pins, because the shots that we take for the original pins versus the shots we take for the new pins, we want to change our shot selection up, and some of the holes play absolutely different. So let's go find them. Let's go to Tommy's site. We'll use Tommy's, although we could go to Golf Clash Notebook, and they do have the Oasis. And they're in alphabetical order. The Oasis. Hole number 1. Okay, hole number 1. Let's talk about our options. We got tons of options on this hole. We'll take the one-on-one option. There is a layup shot you can do over here. And it's actually a little bit difficult because you're bouncing over from here trying to get over, and so you got to be close up against this in order to give yourself some separation from this to try and get it up through the middle. And it is easy to screw up and end up in the rough here. And if you're in the rough here, you are SOL or LOS or OSL. You are in, like, it gets bad. It's bad if you're in the rough. But if you're in this shot, you've got a straight up shot. And I've made a lot of albies from over here. When the game first came out and you got lower developed stuff, you're hitting over to here, you've got some stuff. You can hit to right here, and if you hit to right here, as far as arc wise to the hole, you're definitely shorter. And I think you might be in long iron if you just hit to right here, where you're bringing it around the bend. So you're using this area. You're either bringing out a big enough ball so that you can hit in front and then just lock it up, or you're hitting off of the edge of this where you're having to use curl and side spin to bring it back around. So this is a great shot if you're using a bigger power ball. They use like a QB or a rock, something that gives you good accuracy through this corridor. Big topper is not a bad club because it has lots of curl and lots of topspin to try and get. So like if you're down here low and you're with a big topper, can you make up this difference? You can use an APOC and just try and lock it up right here, and then you have a straight up rough bump right to the cup. And I will tell you, that's not a bad rough bump. Like if I was taking a shot where I wanted to be from distance, I would definitely, like, this is the shot that I would take. That rough bump's beautiful. And if you're at the right spot out here, depending on what ball you bring out. So if you bring out like a katana, this shot might be a wood, and you might be in. So like if you're not in the right spot with your Guardian, because it's I think it's a shot that you have to use a little bit of backspin on the rough bump, or a Guardian would work, it has enough topspin to get you there. So you could double duty it. If your red line was such that you missed the rough bump, or you didn't like it because of the wind direction, you could start off on the green and you could backspin it and try and go for it. But if the wind was blowing, so that you didn't have to involve the sand, so it was a fairly safe adjustment, you could do the rough bump with the same club from out here. And if you're in long iron out here, I suppose you could try and bring your Grim Reaper. Bring something that's got good backspin and good ball guide if you've got it. But there is another way that you can go at it, and it's the way that I'm going to go. Now, I will say this, that you may not have to do the shot. What we may be able to do here is bring out a ball so that we can get out in this area as far as we can, where we can get bounce number 1, bounce number 2, bounce number 3 going over, and try and bleed out into this area, so that we're taking, if we look at where the tee box is at and we draw a line from this area to the tee box, we're actually trying to cover this arc. So you know, if we're out in this area, thinking about where where we're coming through at that point, trying to get our bounces right so that we can end up over here. There is a max overpower hook shot that you can do. And I can't remember what club it is or what ball it is or what any of the deal, but you're starting off over here by the sand. You're using this sand in this corner as your, so if you're out in this area coming over 20, 21 rings, out starting off here where you're doing a max overpower hook shot and you're trying to get a bounce way up in the tip to get bounce number 1, bounce number 2 all the way over, or clip the rough and bleed out and end up in that area. And that's the shot that I'm going for. One way or the other, whether we can do it with a topspin boost ball or whether we have to do the max overpower hook shot, I'm going for this spot all week. I'm not, although I think that you have a great shot of making this rough bump to get in, and you still have a good shot from over here to get it in. Both of those shots are much easier to get to, but I'm going to take the risk every day this week and go for that shot up there in the front, because I want to take that. I want to try and put myself in the right spot. Now, it may be difficult on headwind days, and on headwind days, the shot to take is probably the rough or the max overpower hook. Because on headwind days, like, you're probably already, if you're trying to do the straight shot, I'm not sure what it'll look like. So we'll have to play this out during the week and pick which pony, whether it's straight on and bring in a topspin boost ball or if it's a max overpower hook. The max overpower hook, I probably won't need to bring out that special of a ball. So it might be the better option, and it might work better against headwind days. We'll see. We will see. Hole number 2. Hole number 2 we got. All right. So we have several options on this hole as well. So with the original pin placement, getting up into this corner right here gives you a shot at the cup. So if you draw a line, let's see if we can see where the pin is in that island. So the pin is like right in this area. And so if we're up on the tip here, we can actually kind of get to it. We can maneuver around or bounce over that to get to the cup. And so if we were here, if we're in this area coming at it, we're looking more at the rough bump, like using one of these areas for a rough bump, or having to bring out a club that's got some backspin, because this whole thing about starting off on this side and then trying to bring it back around, I mean, our angle now is like this. So we're definitely, if we're on the island, we're going straight at the cup, and we're probably doing a rough bump. The new pin placement, I think, is like down here, and you can't get to it from this area, so you want to hit it over to this side or hit it to the island. And the island's actually not a bad deal because of the rough bump, but the rough bump works better on the new pin placement than it does on the old pin placement, but it does work. I may try this at the beginning of the week and see what the deal is, because we want to have both shots in our bag. So like if the wind is blowing, like if the sand is, like, you just do not want to deal with the sand. Anytime the wind's blowing where you'd have to pull over the sand, you take this shot. And then anytime the wind's blowing favorably with the sand, you can take this shot. We may have to have two shots in our bag before we pick our ponies. But if we're going to get over to this area right here, we're doing, this shot is where we're coming, and bounce number 1's on this island, and we're bringing bounce number 2 over. It kind of rolls off, and there's a dome. If you roll over the edge of that onto the other side with any speed at all, you're probably going to end up in the rough. And I think you can recover from down there in the rough. It's a wood shot from here to get up here, but I think if you were in the rough down here, you can make it over to the other side and get yourself up into this area so that you can recover. Same thing over here. Over here you probably have an easier time recovering. This shot to the right, really, in this pin placement, this shot doesn't work. It's not a very good, it's so hard to get back around to the cup, that you really have shots out of here, like serious shots where you don't have to do a lot of movement to it. Whereas over here, you got a bunch. But the new pin placement, this is definitely the side to hit to. Definitely. Kmart sucks. You can get over to this area with a QB and a rock. So you don't have to bring out really big stuff. You can bring out your more accurate clubs where you can make fine-tune that adjustment. Fine-tune it. Hole number 3. Hole number 3 in the Oasis. Alright, they've modified this hole so many freaking times, but there is, if I remember correctly, there is a rough bump that we can do that's here, and it's like it's somewhere in the plus 10%. But there is a rough bump that we can do where we can bleed it off with our, I think it's with a sniper. And I'm not so sure that I think we can get it done with a Quasar, but we might have to bring out a Katana or a Kingmaker just to make the distance for the rough bump. But there is definitely a rough bump we can do. You can bounce off the island and get it over, but it's problematic because it's not bounce number 1 that's the issue, it's bounce number 2. So if you're off trajectory, you don't make a good pull, or anything happens, your fault, my fault, nobody's fault, you can have problems with your second bounce. There is a shot that you can do from here. There used to be a tree here and it posted a shadow out, and you could use that shadow as your reference point and trying to get bounce number 1, bounce number 2, but you've got to use a lot of curl in order to bring it back over to the cup. There's a hill here, you can ride along that hill. One of the things that they did, and I think they fixed it on this hole, I think it's a permanent fixture, is that this area here is pretty flat now. I think when you're hitting the rough and you're hitting up here, it might just be with the new pin placement, but I think they actually modified the green here, and it's pretty flat to the cup. There used to be a shelf, and everything here was rolling down, and everything here was rolling down, and so this is where it met, and it was really rolling down. But you come up, and if you rolled off of that shelf and you were just right here, it was a bitch of a putt because it was up the steep little hill to get back up to the flagpole. But at some point they leveled that out, and they cut it off so it's like this, so it's more of a just a gradual deal. And so the putts here are a lot nicer than they used to be. I'm hoping that that's how that was an actual change to the green when they put the new pin placement in. But there is definitely a rough bump there. Definitely. Hole number 4. All right, this is a great par 5. There's a rough bump here as well. So like we want to get out along this zone, and our shot to the cup, we're using this rough, and we can do a rough bump. And in the past, I've always bought, this is another one of those holes that you can hedge your bet. So where you got to get out here, I'm not so sure that you can't bring out a Katana on the drive shot, so that you can bring out your Guardian. And if you're in the right spot, you can do the rough bump. But if you overhit it just a little, you're in minimum club, and you can do a backspin shot that you can't do. So if you bring out on your second shot, you have 3 ways that you can go at it. So if let's say you're in a spot down here and you're in a fairly good spot, you can bounce it off the island, do bounce number 1, bounce number 2, and it's not so uncommon to make your second bounce clip the rough and then bleed out, or you're trying to stick it to the cup, or you start off on this side and you do the rough bump. So you got shot number 1. Yeah, if I can get my pen to work. I lost it. I lost my pen. Hold on, let me get it back, put it over on this side. All right, get it back on the frame that I can touch. So you got shot number 1, shot number 2 is the rough, and shot number 3 is a backspin shot. You can, with a Guardian, even when it's got the 2.5 topspin, you can get this shot barely done. You can definitely do shot number 2, and you can definitely do shot number 3. But with a sniper, you can get shot number 1 done, and you can get shot number 2 done, but you can't do shot number 3. So if you want to give yourself options down in this area and you're having issues, a Guardian may be the ticket, because that way you can do all 3. Whereas if you bring a sniper, you've got to be in shot 1 and 2's range. So if you're in shot number 2, you need to be back just a little. So if you're having distance issues, bring out a smaller ball. Bring out a Katana. A power 2 ball. Just trying to bounce it over from this area to bounce it over. And it catches the slide over here. So it's easy to end up all the way in the bottom where you get maximum distance. And I don't think that you really need to get maximum distance. I think you can just be right here in the center and not try and really go for it, so that you're more in your wood when you get to this area. I'm excited about this hole, but you have a great shot to the cup, and I'm not sure that we're adding anything. If we're adding or taking anything off, it's very, very close. Very close. Hole number 5. All right, the fish hole. Man, I had so many problems on this hole when I was playing in Tour 9. And then I went and actually learned how to play the hole. And I can't remember. I'm going to have to look this up, because this is a difficult hole to set up, but I'm 100% sure I'm playing it with a Guardian. And I'm not so sure about the ball, whether I'm having to play. I'm trying to do a rough bump off of this area. And I'm not so sure, in order to get me to that area, that I'm not having to bring out a bigger power ball, but I'm using that. And this is the way you want to do it. I think it's max backspin and no side spin, or like a little side spin. And what you do is you set the shot up. You have to know what the spin is in order to get this in time. So I think it's max backspin. It might be 6 or it might be 8. There's a number, and we need to know what it is. And I'm not sure that I'm putting any spin on it. And set the ball up, and then you have to spin around and look at it from this side when you set it up, and you're grabbing it over here, and you're putting it in the spot so that your ball guide works, because you can't see your ball guide working to the hole from any angle other than on the back side of the shot. And set the shot up, and then once you make the shot, then it's a big adjustment. Big. It's like a 50 or 60% adjustment, or it's a big number. It seemed to me like it was. I'll have to go back and watch the video on it, because I love getting on this hole. We definitely have in a rookie, we definitely have a hole-in-one opportunity on this hole, for sure. This is a great opportunity for hole-in-one, and I can't remember if I was doing, I can't remember what the shot was. It seemed like I was in mid-club, and I was doing a mid-number, and then it balanced out. But I can't remember if I was doing that or if I was doing, like, adding on a bunch, but it seemed like I was adding on a bunch. That's going to be a great hole this week. I'll watch that. Go back and look at my inventory and look at other tournaments that this hole's been in. What's it been in? Tropic Kings, the Desert Open. I think I had this shot figured out by the time we played the Tropic Kings, and we were killing it. It's been in more tournaments than that, a lot more. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, go back and find the Tropic Kings. And I was probably shooting one hole at a time back then, so I just have this hole number 5 of Oasis, hole number 6. All right, this is the bounce, steady, bounce, steady, bounce hole. All right, bounce, steady, bounce, steady, bounce. Trying to end up along this ridge up here in the front to do your second shot. And it is, if you do not get up here in the front, you need to bring, or if you got lower developed stuff, you need to bring your biggest hitting wood, because it's a long ways. And this green, so from the tee box to get up here, I mean, tee box drawing a straight line, it is bounce, steady, bounce, steady, bounce. And this green right here is like this. And so if you hit over here, it's going to take this kind of a bounce. If you hit over here, it's going to take that kind of a bounce. And so you're trying to do the little S curve through this, so that you're hitting on a flat area here, hitting on a flat area here, and then rolling back out. And it doesn't always work good that way, but just trying to bounce steady, bounce steady, bounce it out there. And I'm 100% sure I was doing at least a minimum of plus 10 on the drive. I might have been doing plus 20, but there was definitely an adjustment on the drive that we had to make. And I think it was plus 10, but it might have been a little higher. Trying to get bounce on the flat, bounce up here in the front, and coming up where this little hollow spot's out, to get aiming point, like just trying to end up right at that hollow. It breaks off really easy, so you can end up bleeding off of this over in these areas. So trying to stay away from the edge and stay in the middle is much preferred. And the second shot, if you're up in that area, you can come at it. The deal with this shot is this green is running at an angle, and the flagpole's right here. And so if you're coming up, you got to worry about this rough line. So you're coming in at it like this, and so you're going to have to pull out over here to the left So let's reset that up. We're running along this line. Okay, it runs downhill, and you're having to set up a couple rings off here, looking out in this direction. So you're going to have to use some spin in order to bring it back to the cup. But as soon as it hits the green here, it's like falling off, like hard to the right. And your ball guide's not going to run straight to it. Your ball guide, you're going to run your ball guide up here, and then it's going to drop down to the cup. And so it's super easy to overshoot it. And it looks like we have green, fringe, fairway, rough. But when you're up here in this area, the fringe is the same width as the fairway, and then you're in the rough, so it's easy to overshoot it. And if you miss this, you can dribble down the hill. So be careful. Watch your ball guide. You don't have to run your ball guide through the cup. This is one of those ones where it's going to continue to roll after the shot's over and then come to a stop. We have a good opportunity there. This side right here doesn't work very well with this pin placement. With the new pin placement, I think the new pin placement is more like on this side, and there's actually a rough bump that you can do from over here. And now I will say this, that I'm not so sure, like if you were over in this area and you were doing this rough bump, if you had a topspin boost ball, like I'm not sure if you can do the rough bump from this side, but if you had a topspin boost ball, you might be able to. And that side might not be a bad way to go. We'll have to look. We'll have to see what our options are, because the balls are changing some of the ways we can play holes. This hole blows. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to do a rough bump here all week, but I'm not so sure that I've made a few hole-in-ones here, but you can get in trouble. You can bounce off of this island in rookie. In pro, you got to do a bounce diddy bounce diddy bounce. You're going to bounce off something. But in rookie, we can get to this area with a power 3 ball. We can get to the rough bump and get up in our shot. And I'm pretty sure the rough bump there was like a plus 10 or a plus 15, and we definitely needed to do the plus. The thing I like about the rough bump is you can move it around depending on which way the wind's blowing, so that you can try to find the spot, the best spots to go at it. All right. It's our next hole. I don't like that hole, but I'm going to do the rough bump. This is an awesome opportunity right here. This shot, we have several ways that we can go at it. We can try and bring it up into this area. You've got to clear those trees and then come at it like this. Or you can get over here in the shadows and try and come out like this, and there's a rough bump that you can do here too. One of the things I noticed about this rough bump is, I think in this rough bump, if I remember correctly, it's one way or the other, but I think the correct way is I was trying to set up, I was out here and it was taking an irregular bounce to the cup, and I was doing a plus here too. It was like a very small amount, like plus 10 or minus 10, or there was a very small amount, plus 5, it was very small. And I was 3 rings out, and it was taking an irregular bounce, and it was always just like off the cup. And even when I made an adjustment for that, I still ended up, it was taking an irregular bounce. And my opponent came out here, and they were 2 rings out into the rough instead of 3. And where it hit, it didn't make that irregular bounce. So I switched to 2 instead of 3, and started making this, like sinking it. It wasn't making that irregular bounce anymore. Better plug my phone in, since it has 5%. But we have a great opportunity to get out here and take this rough bump and go straight at it, or get over here. I'm going to take the shot to the right. The shot to the right is a little problematic because from the tee box, there's our tee box, we're trying to get to here from this tee box. So we're trying to get this angle, and in order to get that, we can get bounce number 1, bounce number 2, bounce number 3, and then bleed off. So we're trying to be on this arc. And what I want to do is I want to pinch up here and get my ball guide so that it's running right. The way I'm going to set this shot up is I'm going to set it up so that I am 2 rings off at this point. 2 rings off, and then my ball guide's running right along that edge. And so I know that if I put on like just like a half a ball of curl, or just lean in curl to the left, one ring, that it'll put me right here. So bounce number 1, bounce number 2, and then it'll bleed me out. That if I hit it, even if I hit it great to the right, my bounce here may be off, but I could still clip and bleed out into that area. But I want to end up right there and do that rough bump. That's what I'm going to do. That is what I'm going to do. Hole number 9. Okay, this is a hole right here. Right here. This island right here, if you ever play this in one-on-one and your opponent shoots for this island, they're shooting from here trying to get over to this island up here, they can't make this shot. So what they're relegating themselves to is from here hitting out to the tip and setting themselves up for an easy shot. It's still, you got a lot of work to get done, but that's a makeable shot just to get your eagle. So a lot of people look at this hole as a birdie hole with an eagle opportunity, but I don't know if they just can't see it, if it's not showing it on their screen, or what the deal is, but we have a spot right here. And with some of the newer balls, it seems like the last time we played, we were actually trying a shot where we were going either starting off on this side with like but I think we were going bounce number 1, bounce number 2, trying to bridge the gap and ending up over here, and you had this shot. But the deal is, if you get on that island and you get to the very tip of it, you actually can come right on, I mean barely with this tree. You can come on the left-hand side of it, and you can come up here and do a rough bump. And this is where a ball with a little bit of side spin comes in handy, because you can push out to the left up here to give yourself some separation from the tree, and then put on the left-hand side spin so it's bringing you around like this and you're going around the tree. Gives you a little bit of room on the tree. And you can do there is a rough bump that you can do from right there that is pretty sweet. And you're actually going for the going for the Albie. It's an Albie hole. You can go for it. If you end up here, you've got this shot right here, and you can bounce off of this island. Or if you got enough distance, you can bounce off of this island, depending on what club and ball combo you brought, and just bring it around the green and get your eagle and move along, a little doggy. And you're always going to win if you can land on this island. If somebody hits out here, they just took themselves out. They've relegated themselves to 3 and on. So they've relegated themselves on the birdie track with an eagle opportunity, and you're still on the Albie track you're still on the eagle track with an Albie opportunity. But how do you get out to that island? Well, you can hit from here, depending on the clubs that you have, and you can try and rough bump it out so that you're just on the island and you've got this shot coming at the cup. And you can take a sniper out there. You can bring a Guardian on this too. A Guardian works good if you're in a bad spot or in between clubs. You can use the backspin on it, where you can try and do a max overpower shot and try and get to this island and do backspin so it sticks on the island, on the green side. Or try and bounce it over there. You have to take it a couple times and see what club it works best. Or try and hit to the front and take the shot, the rough bump shot. You can get up into this area right here where your shot's going off like this, and you're putting on curl and you're swinging it. And so you're trying to get the second bounce to hit right there in front in the rough and then bleed out onto that area. But I think with the spin balls that we have now, we can bring out a big enough ball that we can try and get over. We might be able to get over where we put on a little bit of backspin and we're using curl, trying to get over here, trying to get up to the front. But if you're not hitting to this island, you're missing the boat. And I'm not so sure you can't try and work your way over here in the right kind of conditions. But if you're hitting out here, you are just losing a shot for no good reason. Thanks for watching. That was a quick scouting report of the Oasis. So the Oasis is a fun course, and with the new ball inventories that are out there, I think we have a shit ton of opportunities on a lot of these holes, and we can actually we have some great opportunities can present themselves. So I will see you out there on the course, and we'll do a practice round on Monday. Thanks for watching.